In today's video, we are going to show you and give you a full tutorial on how to run your own MCP server locally. So first, let me quickly describe the project, which is a to-do list, and then let me show you some quick examples. So this is our sample server running right now locally, and all it is a to-do list. You can obviously add to-dos. So let me add get groceries. It will default to medium. We can also check off the in-progress to-dos to be marked as completed. So if I just finished get groceries, I can mark it as complete. Obviously this toggles. I can also delete to-dos. So once I finish my actual groceries, I can remove it from the list entirely. And so this is our simple to-do app. And so similarly, I have my MCP server running locally. And instead of interacting with this UI, clicking around some buttons and doing things manually, instead I can just ask the LLM, in this case, Claude, to add a to-do called pick up kids from school. So Claude is going to think for a while. It's going to see what my intent is, and then it's going to ultimately call my MCP server called To-Do Manager, and it just added a to-do. So the cool thing about an MCP server is that it has shared logic between the UI and the LLM. Just like interacting in the UI of like completing stuff and like deleting it, I can also do the same in natural language. So if I just say, okay, I finished that task, it's going to understand the intent of what I want to do. I didn't call it to explicitly mark it as completed. I did that on purpose. And so Claude recognizes the intent of what I meant by I finished that task, and then it marked it complete. So if I go back to the UI, it has marked it as complete. I can also list all my to-dos in natural language. So again, I didn't explicitly call a MCP server. It figured out that that was my intent, and it gave me all my to-dos. So I currently have 4 open to-dos ranked from high to low in priority. So it says that number 2 is my record the open demo, and then also shows all my completed tasks as well. And to complete this demo, so say I want to delete the completed tasks, and from there, it will remove number 1 and 7 from the list entirely. We can see this happen in pretty much real time. So it deleted 1 right now, and then it's going to delete number 7. So that is my little demo on running an MCP locally. Obviously, your workflows are going to be a lot more complex than a to-do list, but I wanted to start off with a very simple case to make it very understandable of what we're actually doing. So now that we have a demo, let's actually talk about MCP servers and what they're used for. So this is what MCP is, and it stands for Model Context Protocol, and is an open source standard for connecting AI applications to external systems. So this is exactly what we showed in the demo. We connected an AI application, which was Claude Code, and we connected it to our external system, which was the to-do list. So this is what MCP server is. So again, it is just a standard protocol where all these tools can feed into the MCP server. And then from there, different chat interfaces, IDEs, and code editors and other AI applications can understand how to interact with these tools all through natural language. And so in this example, we can see some of the data sources and tools we can use. So we can connect to different databases like Postgres, SQLite. We can also connect to different development tools like Git and Sentry. So I can ask my model, like, hey, what was the PR that got merged 2 days ago? I totally forgot what that was about. And because our LLM can have access to that Git data via MCP, it can tell us in natural language, hey, the PR you pushed was, PR number 10, where we added a setting screen or something like that. So MCP will call these tools separately, and then from there, it will get the context of what it needs to answer the user's question in natural language. We also have access to productivity tools such as Slack and Google Maps, and many, many more. If you want to take a look of all the MCP servers that are out and about, I like this website called Smithery, where you can look at all the different MCP servers. You can search the MCP servers for your exact use case. If I want to look at LinkedIn, there's all these different LinkedIn MCP servers. I actually have my own MCP server as well from Radio, which is LinkedIn Publish plus scheduled posts. But this is probably for another video, publishing your actual MCP server for public usage. So now that we understand what an MCP server is, let's actually walk through what actually happens under the hood. You probably won't have to interact with any of this in the code, but this just gives you understanding of what is happening between a client and a server. And once again, like this, you actually won't see this through code, but it's just good to know to understand what is actually happening behind the scenes. So the first thing that happens is that a client will connect to a server through this initialize phase. And all that happens is the client will send a bunch of this JSON. It will give it params, so like what protocol it's using. Once again, this MCP is a standard protocol, so it needs to know what actual version it's using, some capabilities, which I will go into, and then just some basic client info. So the name of the client as well as the version. So once that gets sent, the server will take a look, and if all goes well, it will send some JSON back, confirming the protocol version, the capabilities, the resources, and then the server info, which is different than the client. So the server will give it the name as well as the version. After that happens and both the client and server are connected, now let's talk about tool discovery. So normally when we go through Claude or talk to Claude, there are things firing in the background. It will look at all the different tools that Claude has available to it. You can actually also see like MCP, all the MCPs that are connected to it. So like local MCPs, Claude owned MCPs, as well as built-in MCPs. And it'll iterate through this list to see if what we're saying aligns with the tool set that it has. So Claude or the client will basically say, give me all the tools that are available to me. And then from there, the server will send back all the tools that are available. So in this example, it shows that it has a calculator tool. It shows that it has weather information tool. And in this object, we have a bunch of parameters like name, title, description, as well as the input schema. So we send all this back as one tool, and then we'll send another object for this other tool called weather current tool, which gives the current weather for any location worldwide. So it essentially just gives it a bunch of metadata so the LLM can decide whether this tool set is relevant to the conversation it is having with a user and whether or not the tool will be useful. So going to number 3, if the client figures out that a tool is indeed necessary for it and is relevant to the conversation. So if I ask Claude, what is the weather in Los Angeles today? It will send another call /tool/call, and then we'll call the relevant tool and pass in certain arguments that are necessary for this tool. And you can see the arguments in this input schema. So it requires a location of type string as well as units of also type string, and an enum of metric, imperial, or Kelvin. So in this example, we pass in the location as San Francisco as well as the unit, which follows imperial. And then from there, it will call the tool and we'll send back some JSON with the result, which will say the current weather is in San Francisco, 68 degrees, partly cloudy with light winds from west at 8 miles per hour, humidity 65%. And so that is what is happening under the hood. Now that we've established some basic understanding of what is happening under the hood with MCP, let's go back to our real world example and let's start digging into the code. So the first file we're going to dive into is this mcp-server.ts. So all this file is an entry point with /mcp, which acts as the entry point of the MCP server. So if we look at this actual post request, you can see that there is some middleware of auth where we ensure that the user that is calling this /mcp server is authorized. It looks at some authorization with a bearer token, and then from there it checks if we have the right token. If not, it will reject this as an unauthorized call. But if it passes, and in this case, if our token is admin, we will then have access to this MCP. So once we are authenticated, then we're gonna go to this line on line 35, which starts to build the server. And this acts as the initialization phase. First, we are creating a new MCP server instance. And like we showed in the example, number 1 of initialization, we are initializing our server, calling it to-do manager, as well as version 1.0.0. And so all of this JSON is abstracted away into this constructor, this new MCP server. And so all we need to pass in is the name as well as the version. So once we've initialized our server, then we can register the tools associated with our local MCP. So we have several rules here, and we show these examples in the beginning of the video. So the first tool that we have is listing the to-dos, and we have all the metadata here. So the title is list to-dos. The description is to list to-dos optionally filtered by completion status. We also have the input schema of the to-dos in Zod. So we have a boolean of z.boolean.optional, so it's an optional filter, and then a description of what this property is used for. So in an example where I call all my to-dos, but I only want to show the to-dos that are not completed, I would pass in completed as true. We also have this safe /list to-dos where we actually call the API locally of what we're doing. Even though we are registering a tool initially, the bulk of the work that happens under the hood is actually in this API, which connects to our API servers. So we have a bunch of endpoints here where this is where the actual business logic happens. So if we have an endpoint of here /to-dos, this gets all our to-dos in code. We have post requests for to-dos, which is to create a to-do. We have patch, which is updating a to-do. Deleting, which is deleting a to-do based on the ID passed in. And so in the API-server.ts, here is where the actual REST request happen. And going back to build server. So if we register tool, it will list the tool in the registry, but we will actually start to call the API in this API list, which is an abstracted list of all the calls that happen under the hood. So going back to our MCP example, we are essentially building this now. So as you can see, we have the title, which matches the title, description, which matches the description, as well as the input schema, which builds all this in the background through Zod. And we see this for every single tool that we have. So the next tool we have is a get to do, which gets a to do fetched by ID. So if I wanted to fetch my to do of number 5, it's going to give me back publish a starter repo. So if I open my Claude and I say get to do number 5, it should get me back publish the starter repo. It took about 14 seconds, and then from there, it got me to do number 5, which is publish the starter repo, exactly what we see in our UI. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see that we have an add to do, which adds a to do, complete a to do, which marks it as complete, a delete to do, which removes it altogether, and that is it. So in that file, we did number 1, which is initialize the actual MCP server, as well as number 2, which registered all these tools in our registry via the register tool method. And now going back to this NPC server file. So we completed this, which is line 35. Next is creating the streamable HTTP server, which allows us to transport requests and responses through this special streamable HTTP server. And the reason why we use streamable HTTP server versus a normal HTTP server is that we want to keep the flow of information continuous, where normal HTTP, we get one request and one response. But since we want constant updates from certain tools, we want to keep that line open and have it send messages to update us that the tool is actually working. Lastly is this handle request, which is a method inside of streamable HTTP server transport. It will look at our server or the registry of all the different types of tools that we've initialized in the server. And then handle request will, like it says, handle the requests and basically just pass stuff along from the client to the actual MCP server itself. And so if we look at this example of calling this request, if we do the method of tool/call, all this does will pass in the request as tool/call, and then we'll also pass in all the request body. And so this is how an MCP works locally. So last but not least, even though we build all this, we are not done just yet. We need to actually add this in our Claude.json. So even if we build all this, we still won't have access to an MCP server until we actually add it to our LLM. And so there are different methods depending on which LLM or interface you use on adding MCP servers. But in this case, we're going to show you how to add it to your Claude. And if we go to our root.claude.json, you will see this property called MCP servers with an object. And so for me, a lot of these files in other directories are blank with MCP servers because I don't have any installed. But for this one, which is my /coding/YouTube, here I installed my to-do manager in the MPC server. And so in Claude docs, you can see that if we want to add a local stdio server, here are the instructions. We have to give it the transport method, which in this case is stdio. We also gave it the command to run, which is node, and then the arguments, which is the folder in which where the MCP server lies, which is this endpoint. And so we need to add this in order to get access to the MCP server. And once again, going back to our CLI, if we type MCP, we can see all the MCP servers that are in our local. Right now, in our local MCP, we have the to-do manager. And again, we see all the Claude own MCP servers and other built-in MCPs. So that is how you build an MCP server, and that is what is happening under the hood. If you want to try this yourself and download this repo, I have that in the link down below. You just have to join my free school community, where we have a small community of people. You can ask me anything in the community and I will respond to you personally. So try this out yourself. And let me know if you want a part 2, where we can go from a local MCP to one that is hosted in the cloud, where anybody can get access to. With that being said, I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.